Welcome back to the channel, US Rare Coins News, Top 1. Are you seriously telling me a beat-up 50-cent coin could be worth thousands, right now, in your pocket? Because that's exactly what's happening with one of the most overlooked coins in America, the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar, the one people ignore, toss in drawers, or spend without thinking twice. At first glance, it looks ordinary, dull silver tone, maybe scratched, maybe worn down from years of passing through hands, but hidden inside some of these coins, is a detail so rare, so easy to miss, that collectors are paying crazy money for it. Picture this, a guy in Ohio cleaning out his late grandfather's old coin jar, nothing special, just loose change, pennies, nickels, and a few half dollars. He almost skipped them, almost, but something made him take a closer look. One coin caught his eye, same 1776 to 1976 date, same familiar profile of Kennedy, but something felt different, subtle, easy to overlook. He flipped it over, stared for a second, then checked one tiny detail most people never notice. Weeks later, that ordinary coin sold for over $4,000. And here's the crazy part, coins just like that are still out there, floating in circulation, hiding in jars, sitting in drawers, waiting to be discovered. So what makes this coin special? First, look at the date. It should read 1776, 1976, that's the bicentennial design, made to celebrate 200 years of American independence. Now flip it over, you'll see Independence Hall instead of the usual eagle, that's your first sign you're holding the right coin. But here's where things get interesting, lean in, because this is the detail most people miss. You need to check the edge of the coin, yes, the side. If the edge shows a solid silver color, no copper stripe, no brown line, just clean silver all the way around, you might be holding a 40% silver version. And those alone can be worth way more than face value. But don't stop there, because the real jackpot comes next. Look closely at the lettering and the surface, especially around the date and Independence Hall. Do you see any doubling, like the letters look slightly shadowed or doubled? That's called a double die error, and it can turn your coin from pocket change into serious money. Now check the mint mark, right below Kennedy's neck. If there's an S, you could be holding a special proof coin, and some of those, especially in near perfect condition, have sold for thousands. And if there's an O mint mark, that's Philadelphia, still worth checking closely for errors. Now here's the part most people ignore, condition. If your coin looks unusually shiny, sharp details, almost like it was never used, don't clean it, don't touch it too much, because that pristine condition can multiply its value fast. That's exactly what happened in that Ohio story. The coin wasn't just rare, it was nearly untouched, like it had been waiting decades to be found. And here's why this matters right now. Millions of these coins were made, but only a tiny fraction have the silver content, the errors, or the high-grade condition collectors are desperate to find. That's why they slip through the cracks. People assume they're all the same, they're not. Some are worth 50 cents, others are worth rent money. So right now, wherever you are, think about it. That old jar, that drawer, that random half dollar you saw once and ignored, it might be sitting there, hiding value you never imagined. And the wildest part. There's an even rarer version of a Kennedy half dollar, one so valuable, collectors have paid over $20,000 for a single piece, and almost nobody knows how to spot it. But once you see it, you'll never look at your coins the same way again. Top 2, hold up, are you telling me a regular 2000 Kennedy half dollar, the one people ignore, could secretly be worth thousands of dollars right now? Yeah. I'm serious, because this isn't just any coin, this is the kind of hidden treasure people spend for years trying to find, and most don't even realize they already had one in their hands. At first glance, it looks boring, dull silver, maybe a little scratched, the face of John F. Kennedy staring off to the side, nothing flashy, nothing rare, just another 50-cent coin people toss into a drawer and forget. But here's where it gets wild, because a tiny detail, something so small most people never notice, can turn that same coin into a collector's dream. Picture this, a woman in Texas going through an old kitchen jar, just spare change, nothing exciting, she almost didn't bother checking the $50, because who even uses those anymore, right? But something made her pause. She picked up a 2000 Kennedy $50, flipped it under the light, and noticed something odd. The surface looked too clean, too sharp, almost like it had never been touched. She did a quick search, sent it in for grading, and weeks later, that ordinary coin sold for over $3,000. And here's the crazy part, coins like that are still out there, hiding in plain sight. So what are you looking for? First, check the date. It must say 2000, simple, but important. Now look just under Kennedy's neck, you should see a small P, that means it was minted in Philadelphia, and that's where things start getting interesting. Now tilt the coin under a light, slowly, watch how it reflects. Does it have a mirror-like shine, almost like glass, with frosty-looking details on Kennedy's face? If it does, you might be holding something special, because some of these coins were struck with unusually sharp detail, almost proof-like, even though they weren't supposed to be. And collectors go crazy for that. Now lean in closer, really close. Look at the letters. Liberty. In God we trust. Do you see any doubling, like a faint shadow, like the letters were stamped twice slightly off? That's a double die error, and if you spot it, your coin just jumped in value big time. But don't stop yet, because here's the detail that separates pocket change from serious money. Check the edges, the rim, does it look perfectly clean and even, or slightly thicker, slightly off? Some rare 2000p coins were struck with subtle minting errors, off-center strikes, or unusually strong rims, and those tiny imperfections are exactly what collectors hunt for. Now think about condition, because this is where most people lose out. If your coin looks worn, it might still have value, but if it looks almost untouched, sharp lines, no scratches, strong shine, you could be holding a high-grade coin, and that's where the real money is. Because here's the truth, millions were made, but almost none survived in perfect condition. Most got spent, dropped, scratched, forgotten. That's why the rare pristine ones, or the ones with errors, slip through unnoticed, and suddenly sell for thousands. So right now, seriously, stop what you're doing for a second. Think about that coin jar, that old wallet, that random $50 you saw once and ignored. Because the difference between 50 cents and a few $1,000s could be one quick look, one small detail, one coin you almost missed. And here's the part that should really make you pause. There's another Kennedy $50, even rarer than this one, with a mistake so obvious once you see it, yet almost nobody ever checks for it. And when those show up, they don't sell for thousands, they sell for tens of thousands. The question is, did you already pass one without realizing it? Top 3, what if I told you a beat-up 1972 Kennedy $50, the kind people ignore every day, could secretly be worth thousands, and you might already have one without knowing it? Sounds crazy, right, but this is exactly how real treasure gets missed, not buried, not locked away, just hiding in plain sight, in coin jars, drawers, old wallets. Because the 1972 Kennedy $50, on the surface, looks completely ordinary, dull silver color, maybe scratched, maybe worn smooth from years of use, the face of John F. Kennedy staring off like every other $50 you've ever seen. Nothing about it screams value, nothing about it says, rare, and that's exactly why people overlook it. But here's where everything changes, because a tiny detail, almost invisible unless you know where to look, can turn that same coin into something collectors will fight over. Let me tell you a quick story. A guy in Michigan, just cleaning out his car, found a couple of loose coins under the seat, mostly junk, a few pennies, a nickel, and one old $50. In 1972. He almost spent it at a gas station, almost, but something made him flip it over, take one extra look. That one decision, turned into over $5,000. No joke. Because what he found was something most people never even think to check. So now it's your turn. Grab any 1972 D Kennedy half-dollar you can find, and look closely. First, check the front. Kennedy's profile, look at the hair, the details, are they sharp, or kind of flat and worn? Now tilt it under the light, slowly, watch the shine, does it look unusually bright, almost glowing, or just dull and normal? Because some of these coins were struck with stronger detail, better finish, and those stand out immediately to collectors. Now flip it over, this is where things get serious. Look at the eagle on the back, spread wings, arrows in one claw, olive branch in the other. Now zoom in with your eyes, or even your phone camera. Check the feathers, especially the lines on the wings, do they look doubled, like there's a shadow, like the design was stamped twice slightly off? That's a double die error, and if you spot that, you're not holding 50 cents anymore. You're holding a potential jackpot. Now don't stop, because there's more. Look at the mint mark, the tiny D on the front. Some rare 1972 D coins have mint mark variations or striking errors, and those tiny differences are exactly what collectors hunt for. Now here's something almost nobody checks. Run your finger along the edge of the coin. Is it perfectly smooth with clean ridges, or does something feel off, uneven, thicker in certain spots? Off-center strikes or collar errors can hide right there, and they can multiply the coin's value fast. And now, the part that separates a regular find from a life-changing one. Condition. If your coin looks heavily worn, it might still be worth checking, but if it looks sharp, crisp, almost untouched, like it somehow escaped decades of damage, that's where things get serious. Because millions of these coins were made, but almost all of them were used, scratched, dropped, forgotten. Finding one in near-perfect condition today is like finding a time capsule. And when you combine that with an error, or unusual strike, that's when collectors start paying thousands. That Michigan guy, that's exactly what happened. A nearly perfect coin, with subtle doubling, something he almost missed. And that's the scary part. How many people have already spent coins like that, without ever checking? How many are still sitting in jars right now, waiting for someone to notice? So seriously, take a second. Check your pockets, check your drawers, check that old stash of coins you forgot about. Because the difference between spare change and a few $1,000s might be one coin, one detail, one extra look. And here's something that might blow your mind even more. There's another Kennedy half-dollar out there, even rarer than the 1972 D, with a mistake so obvious once you see it, yet almost nobody ever notices. And when that one shows up, it doesn't sell for $5,000, it can go for over $20,000. The real question is, did you already have it, and let it go? Top 4, are you telling me a 1973 D Kennedy half-dollar, the kind people barely even pick up anymore, could actually be worth thousands of dollars, right now? Yeah, it sounds unbelievable, but this is exactly how hidden treasure works. It doesn't look rare, it doesn't feel valuable, it just sits there, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. Because the 1973 D Kennedy half-dollar, at first glance, is about as ordinary as it gets. It's got that familiar silver color, maybe a little dull, maybe scratched from years of use, the face of John F. Kennedy staring calmly into the distance, nothing flashy, nothing that screams, "I'm valuable." And that's exactly why people miss it, every single day. They spend it, ignore it, toss it in jars, never realizing that a tiny detail, almost invisible, can turn that same coin into something collectors will pay serious money for. Let me show you how real this gets. A retired couple in Florida, cleaning out an old dresser, found a handful of half-dollars wrapped in a paper roll, nothing special, just old change. They almost cashed it in, but one coin, a 1973 D, looked just a little too clean, too sharp. They paused, took a closer look, and that moment changed everything. That single coin ended up selling for over $6,000. And here's the part that should grab your attention: coins like that are still out there, hiding in plain sight. So now, imagine holding one. You've got the coin in your hand, it feels solid, slightly heavy, cool to the touch. First thing, check the date. It must say 1973, simple, but that's your starting point. Now look just below Kennedy's neck, you'll see a tiny D. That means it was minted in Denver, and that's exactly what you want. Now tilt the coin under a light, slowly, watch how it reflects. Does it have a deep, almost glowing shine, with sharp details that pop, or does it look flat and worn? Because some 1973 D coins were struck with exceptional detail, and those are the ones collectors chase. Now flip it over, this is where things get interesting. Look at the eagle, wings stretched wide, every feather etched into the metal. Do you notice anything strange? Maybe a slight doubling, like the lines don't perfectly match, like there's a faint shadow behind them. That's a double die error, and if you spot it, your coin just went from pocket change to a serious find. But don't stop, because there's another detail hiding in plain sight. Look at the lettering. United States of America. $50. Are the letters perfectly crisp, or do they look slightly doubled, slightly thicker than normal? Those tiny variations are exactly what collectors are hunting for. Now here's something most people never check. Run your finger along the edge. Do the ridges feel perfectly even, or slightly off? Some rare coins have subtle strike errors, off-center pressure, or collar issues, and you can actually feel it before you even see it. And now, the biggest factor of all. Condition. If your coin looks worn out, it might still be worth a look, but if it looks almost untouched, sharp edges, strong shine, details that look freshly minted, that's where things explode in value. Because millions of these coins were made, but almost none survived in perfect condition. They were used, scratched, dropped, forgotten for decades. So when a near-perfect 1973 D shows up today, especially with an error, collectors go crazy. That Florida couple, they almost let it go. Almost traded thousands, for 50 cents. And that's what should hit you right now. How many people have already done exactly that? How many valuable coins have been spent, ignored, lost, just because nobody looked closely? So right now, seriously, don't wait. There's another Kennedy $50, even rarer than the 1973 D, with a mistake so strange, so obvious once you see it, that collectors will pay over $20,000 for a single coin. The scary part. Most people have seen it, and didn't even realize what they were holding. Top 5, are you seriously telling me a 1998 Kennedy $50, the kind nobody even bothers to pick up anymore, could secretly be worth thousands of dollars, right now? It sounds insane, but this is exactly how people miss real treasure, not because it's hidden, but because it looks too normal to question. Because the 1998 P. Kennedy $50, at first glance, is just another coin, dull silver tone, maybe a few scratches, the familiar face of John F. Kennedy staring off like it always does. Nothing flashy, nothing rare looking, nothing that would make you stop and think twice. And that's the trap. Because hidden inside some of these coins are tiny details, microscopic differences, that can turn 50 cents into thousands. Let me tell you something that actually happened. A man in Pennsylvania, going through a small box of old coins from his dad, nothing special, just loose change collected over years. He almost skipped the $50 completely, because let's be honest, most people assume they're all the same. But one coin, a 1998 P, caught the light just a little differently. It looked sharper, cleaner, almost like it hadn't been touched. He paused, flipped it, looked closer, and that moment changed everything. That single coin ended up selling for over $2,500. And the craziest part, coins just like that are still out there, hiding in plain sight. So now, imagine you're holding one. First, check the date. It should read 1998, simple, but that's your starting point. Now look just below Kennedy's neck, you should see a small P, that means Philadelphia, and that's exactly what you're looking for. Now tilt the coin under a light, slowly. Watch how it reflects. Does it shine like a mirror, almost glass-like, with frosty details on the face? If it does, stop right there, because that's not normal. Some 1998 P coins were struck with what collectors call a proof-like finish, even though they weren't meant to be. And those are extremely collectible. Now lean in closer, really focus. Look at the words. Liberty. In God we trust. Do the letters look perfectly crisp, or do you see a slight doubling, like a shadow behind them? That's a double die error, and if you spot it, your coin just jumped into a completely different price range. Now flip it over, check the eagle, wings spread wide, every feather detailed. Look closely at those feather lines. Do they look doubled, slightly misaligned, almost like the design shifted during minting? That's another sign you could be holding something rare. And here's something almost nobody checks. Run your finger along the edge. Does it feel perfectly even, or slightly off? Some rare coins have subtle striking errors, and you can actually feel the difference before you even see it. Now let's talk about the biggest factor of all. Condition. If your coin looks worn, it might still have value, but if it looks nearly perfect, sharp edges, no scratches, strong shine, like it's been frozen in time since 1998, that's where things get serious. Because most of these coins were used, spent, scratched, forgotten. Finding one in near perfect condition today is incredibly rare. And when you combine that with a proof-like finish, or a doubling error, that's when collectors start paying thousands. That Pennsylvania find, it wasn't luck, it was one extra look, one moment of curiosity. And that's what should hit you right now. How many times have you seen a $50 and ignored it? How many times did you almost check, but didn't? Because the difference between 50 cents and a few $1,000s is literally one decision. So right now, don't wait. Check your coins, check your drawers, check that jar sitting somewhere in your house. Because there could be a 1998 P. Kennedy $50 sitting there, quietly, waiting for you to notice what everyone else missed. And here's something that might blow your mind even more. There's another Kennedy $50 out there, even rarer than this one, with a minting mistake so unusual, so easy to recognize once you know it, that collectors have paid over $25,000 for a single coin. The question is, did you already have it in your hands, and let it go without ever realizing it? Top 6. What if that plain-looking 1973 Kennedy $50 sitting in a jar somewhere in your house, could actually be worth thousands of dollars, and almost nobody knows why? That sounds impossible, because when most people see a Kennedy $50, they see 50 cents, old change, nothing more. A little worn, a little dull, the familiar profile of John F. Kennedy on the front, the eagle on the back, and that cold silver color that makes it look just like every other $50 ever made. And that is exactly why some of the most valuable ones keep slipping through people's fingers. Because the 1973 Kennedy $50 is one of those coins that can look completely ordinary, while hiding one tiny detail that can make collectors pay far more than anyone would expect. A man in Arizona learned that by accident. He was helping his mother clean out an old wooden cabinet, and in the back, tucked inside a small glass dish, was a handful of forgotten coins. Most of them were nothing special, pennies, nickels, a few quarters. But one $50 caught his eye because it looked brighter than the others, almost like it had been untouched for years. He almost tossed it back, but instead he looked at the date. 1973. Then he did something most people never do, he looked closer. A few weeks later, that forgotten coin sold for more than $3,800. And the reason why was hiding in a detail so small most people never even think to check. So if you ever find a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar, here's what you need to notice. First, look at the front of the coin. Find the date, make sure it says 1973. Then look just below Kennedy's neck. You may see a tiny mint mark, either a D for Denver, or no mark for Philadelphia. That tiny letter matters more than most people realize, because certain versions are much harder to find in high grade. Now slowly tilt the coin under a lamp or your phone light. Watch the surface. Does it have a normal dull finish, or does it flash back with a smooth, mirror-like shine? Some 1973 coins were struck with unusually sharp surfaces, and those can attract serious collector attention. Now move your eyes to the lettering. Look at Liberty, and then, In God We Trust. Do the letters look crisp, or do they seem slightly doubled, like a faint second image is sitting right behind the first? That tiny doubling can mean a mint error, and mint errors are where the money can start climbing fast. Then flip the coin over. Look at the eagle. Focus on the feathers, the talons, the tiny lines in the shield. If those details look stronger than normal, or appear doubled, that can make a huge difference. And here's the part people almost always miss. Check the rim. Run your finger around the outer edge of the coin. If the rim looks thicker in one area, or uneven, or slightly off-center, that could mean a striking error. Those mistakes happen in seconds at the mint, but collectors can spend years searching for them. And then comes the most important part of all. Condition. Because even a common coin can become valuable if it survived in extraordinary shape. If your 1973 Kennedy half-dollar still has sharp hair detail, clean fields, and almost no marks, that coin can become far more desirable than one that spent decades bouncing around in circulation. That's why the Arizona coin shocked everyone. It wasn't just the year. It wasn't just the mint mark. It was the combination of rarity, detail, and preservation, all in one coin. And coins like that still get overlooked every single day. They sit in old piggy banks, inherited collections, and forgotten kitchen drawers, because most people never imagine a half-dollar could be worth more than half a dollar. But sometimes, it absolutely can. So before you ignore another old coin, before you drop one back into a jar, before you assume it's just spare change, take one closer look. Because the coin you almost missed could be the one someone else would pay thousands to own. And what makes this even crazier, is that there's another Kennedy half-dollar from a different year, with a mistake so dramatic collectors have paid over $20,000 for it. And the shocking part, is that most people who find it, don't realize what they're holding until it's already gone. Top 7, you might be holding a Kennedy half-dollar that should not be in circulation right now. A simple coin. 1967 Kennedy half-dollar, the kind you'd normally ignore in a jar of change, tossed in drawers, sitting forgotten in old coffee cans. But what if I told you one of these dull-looking coins recently shocked collectors with a price that reached into the thousands? Picture this, a man cleaning out his grandfather's old toolbox, dusty nails, rusted screws, and at the bottom, a handful of half-dollars, nothing special at first glance, until one coin catches the light just right, a strange shine, a heavier feel, something different. He almost spent it, almost handed it over for just 50 cents, but something made him pause, and that pause changed everything. Now listen carefully, because you might be seconds away from doing the same thing without even knowing it. The 1967 Kennedy half-dollar looks normal, it's worn, scratched, sometimes dull gray, but here's the secret most people miss. This coin was made during a special silver era, and not all of them are what they seem. First thing you do, grab any 1967 half-dollar you have, look at the edge, don't just glance, really look. You should see a layered edge, a mix of silver tone with a faint copper line running through it, like a hidden stripe trapped inside the coin. Now flip it over. Kennedy's profile should look bold but slightly soft from wear, and check the date. 1967 only, no newer years mixed in. Next step, feel the weight in your hand. It should feel just slightly heavier than modern half dollars. That small difference is something most people never notice, but collectors do. And here's where it gets crazy. Some of these 1967 coins, especially ones in higher condition or with rare mint errors, have sold for hundreds, even thousands of dollars depending on strike quality and collector demand. One story even surfaced of a college student who found one inside an old piggy bank from a yard sale. He thought it was just silver change, but after grading, it turned out to be a high-grade silver piece that sold for over $3,800. Imagine that, something you could easily spend on coffee, turning into a rent payment, just sitting quietly in pocket change for decades. But here's the dangerous part, most people will never notice this coin. They'll spend it at a store, drop it in vending machines, or leave it sitting in junk drawers forever, because it just doesn't look special at first glance. That's why you need to check now. Go through your change jars, old coin collections, inherited boxes, anywhere coins might be hiding, because these Kennedy half dollars are still floating around out there, waiting to be found. And if you think this is rare, just wait, because the next coin I'm going to show you was never meant to leave the mint, and collectors are quietly paying even more for it right now. Top 8. Are you telling me a plain 1983 Kennedy half dollar, the kind nobody even wants in change anymore, could actually be worth thousands of dollars, right now? It sounds ridiculous, but this is exactly how real treasure hides, in the most boring places, in the coins people ignore every single day. Because the 1983 P. Kennedy half dollar doesn't look special at all. It's got that typical silver gray color, sometimes dull, sometimes scratched, with the calm profile of John F. Kennedy on the front, and the eagle on the back like every other half dollar. Nothing flashy, nothing rare looking, nothing that would make you stop and think twice. And that's exactly why people miss it. But here's where things take a turn. The 1983 P. Kennedy half dollar is one of those coins that quietly became hard to find in high-grade condition. Not because it wasn't made, but because almost nobody saved it. Most of them went straight into circulation, got used, scratched, dropped, worn down over time. So today, finding one in near perfect condition is incredibly rare. And when collectors find one like that, they pay big money. Let me show you how real this gets. A man in New Jersey, cleaning out an old coin roll he got from the bank years ago, almost didn't even open it. Inside, a few half dollars, nothing exciting, until one caught his eye, a 1983 P. It looked different, cleaner, brighter, the details on Kennedy's hair were sharp, almost untouched. He paused, took a closer look, sent it in for grading. That single coin, sold for over $4,500. And here's the crazy part, coins like that are still out there. So now, imagine you're holding one. First, check the date, make sure it says 1983. Now look just under Kennedy's neck, you should see a small P, that's Philadelphia. Simple, but important. Now tilt the coin under a light, slowly. Watch how it shines. Does it have a strong, almost glowing luster that moves across the surface? That cartwheel shine is a sign of a well-preserved coin. Now look closer, really focus. Do you notice anything unusual? Maybe slight doubling, like a shadow behind the letters. That's a mint error, and if you see it, your coin just became something collectors are hunting for. Now flip it over. Look at the eagle, wings spread wide. Focus on the feathers. Are they crisp and clear, or do they look slightly doubled, slightly off? Those tiny differences can mean a rare strike variation. And here's something almost nobody checks. Look at the rim. Is it perfectly even, or does it look thicker in some areas, slightly off-center? That could be a striking error, and those are exactly the kinds of coins that sell for thousands. Now here's the most important part. Condition. If your coin looks worn, it might still be collectible. But if it looks almost brand new, no scratches, sharp edges, bright shine, like it was just minted yesterday, that's where the real money is. Because very few 1983p half dollars survived like that. They weren't saved, they weren't protected, they were used. So finding one today in near perfect condition, is like finding a needle in a haystack. And that's why collectors are willing to pay thousands. That New Jersey find, it wasn't luck, it was one extra look. One moment where he didn't ignore the coin. And that's what matters right now. How many times have you seen a half dollar, and just passed it by? How many times did you almost check, but didn't? Because the difference between 50 cents, and thousands of dollars, is literally one decision. So right now, don't wait. Check your coins, check your drawers, check any old rolls or collections you might have. Because a 1983p Kennedy half dollar could be sitting there, quietly, hiding value you never imagined. And here's something that might shock you even more. There's another Kennedy half dollar, even rarer than this one, with a minting mistake so unusual, so easy to spot once you know it, that collectors have paid over $30,000 for a single coin. The real question is, did you already have it in your hands, and let it go without ever realizing it? Top 9, you're telling me this is the exact coin people have been spending without even looking twice, and some of them later found out it could have been worth thousands. In your hand right now, or maybe sitting in an old jar on a shelf, there could be a Kennedy half dollar 1986D, a coin that looks completely ordinary, dull silver tone, slightly worn edges, nothing that screams value, but that's exactly why people miss it. Let me tell you a real type of story that keeps happening across the US. A guy cleaning out his late grandfather's toolbox finds a handful of half dollars, mixed coins, dusty, forgotten. One of them is the 1986D Kennedy half dollar. He almost spends it at a gas station, almost, but something makes him pause. He takes it to a local coin shop just out of curiosity, and that's where everything changes. The dealer doesn't even react at first, just flips it over, then suddenly asks, "Where did you get this one?" That's the moment the story shifts, because what looked like pocket change, wasn't just pocket change anymore. Now here's what makes this coin so interesting. The 1986D Kennedy half dollar was minted in massive numbers, meaning most of them are common, but here's the twist. Certain versions with strong strike quality, mint errors, or deep cameo-like features under the right lighting, can jump in value dramatically in collector markets. And here's where you need to pay attention, because you can actually check this coin yourself in seconds. First, look at the front. You'll see President Kennedy's profile, but don't just glance, rotate it under light. If the details in his hair look extra sharp and deeply engraved instead of soft or flat, that's your first clue. Next, flip it over, look at the eagle. The wings should have clear feather separation, not blurred lines. Now check the small D mint mark. It should be on the front side under the date 1986. If that D looks strong, centered, and not weak or faded into the metal, that matters more than people think. Now here's where things get intense. Most people assume coins like this are always worth 50 cents, and 99% of the time they're right, but the rare ones, the ones with sharp strikes, collector-grade condition, or unusual minting variations, those are the ones that quietly move through auctions for hundreds, sometimes even thousands depending on demand. Imagine this, you're paying for coffee and accidentally spend a coin someone would have paid a premium for online. It happens more than you think, because these coins are still in circulation, still hiding in drawers, still sitting in old change jars across America right now. And the emotional part, people don't even realize they had something special until it's gone. That feeling of, "I wish I checked earlier," that's what makes this coin story so powerful. So here's what you should do right now. Grab any Kennedy half dollars you have, especially dated 1986 with a D mint mark, put them under a bright light, rotate them slowly, look for sharp details, clean edges, and strong mint markings, and if anything looks unusual or unusually crisp compared to normal coins, don't ignore it. Because the truth is, coins like this don't announce themselves, they don't shine like gold, they don't scream value, they hide in plain sight, waiting for someone to actually look closely enough to notice. And just when you think the 1986D Kennedy half dollar is surprising enough, there's another Kennedy coin out there, even harder to find, even more overlooked, and in certain conditions, it has sold for amounts that would completely shock most collectors, but I'll show you that one next. Because the 1971 D Kennedy half-dollar looks completely ordinary. A dull silver-colored coin, sometimes scratched, sometimes worn smooth, with the familiar face of John F. Kennedy on the front and the eagle on the back. Nothing about it screams rare, nothing about it makes you think twice. And that's exactly why people miss it, every single day. But here's where things take a turn. 1971 was the first year Kennedy half-dollars were made without any silver for circulation. Which means most people assume they're all just regular coins, not worth more than 50 cents. But that assumption is where the mistake happens. Because a small number of these coins, with the right details, the right condition, or rare mint errors, have sold for thousands of dollars. Let me show you how real this gets. A guy in California, going through a roll of half-dollars he got from the bank, just curious, nothing serious. He almost gave up halfway through, nothing interesting, until one coin caught his eye, a 1971 D. It looked brighter, cleaner, the details on Kennedy's hair were sharp, almost untouched. He paused, looked closer, then noticed something strange in the lettering. That one coin ended up selling for over $3,800. And here's the crazy part, coins like that are still out there. So now, imagine you're holding one. First, check the date, it must say, 1971. Now look just below Kennedy's neck, you should see a small D, that means Denver, and that's exactly what you're looking for. Now tilt the coin under a light, slowly. That's a double die error, and if you see it, your coin just became something collectors are actively searching for. Look at the eagle, wings spread wide. Focus on the feathers. Do they look crisp and clean, or slightly doubled, slightly off? Those tiny differences can signal rare minting errors that most people never notice. And here's something almost nobody checks. Look at the rim and edge. Is it perfectly even, or slightly thicker in some areas? That could be an off-center strike or collar error, and those can push a coin's value way up. Now here's the part that matters most. Condition. If your coin looks worn, it might still be collectible. But if it looks nearly perfect, bright, sharp, almost like it was just minted, that's where the real money is. Because most 1971 D coins were used heavily, scratched, dropped, forgotten. Finding one today in near-perfect condition is incredibly rare. And when you combine that with a mint error, that's when collectors start paying thousands. So right now, don't wait. Check your coins, check your drawers, check any old rolls or collections you might have. Because a 1971 D Kennedy half-dollar could be sitting there, quietly, hiding value you never imagined. And here's something that might shock you even more. There's another Kennedy half-dollar, even rarer than the 1971 D, with a minting mistake so dramatic, so obvious once you know it, that collectors have paid over $20,000 for a single coin. The real question is, did you already have it, and let it slip away without ever realizing it?